Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Obsidian Blade Medicine Hour on planet Earth. And I am here showing up. I've had a little late start today just because it's TGIF. And it's Thank God I'm Feeling Fridays. And so I was just feeling like, you know what? I need to take a little time to get myself a little bit more prepared and then show up for all of you. So good morning, everybody here on Instagram Live and on YouTube. And I am so stoked to have a moment with you to check in. And really, this episode, I have no theme. It's really about you. It's really all about what you want to talk about. I feel like I hog the microphone in this conversation way too much. So I just really want to hand it over to you on Friday and be like, hey, Little Hawk Midnight, Jojo, what's up? I really just want to hand the microphone over to all of you for this TGIF. Thank God I'm Feeling Friday. Hopefully you're feeling this Friday. And I just want to hear what's going on for you, what sort of things are coming up for you. Really, this is the theme that we work on here, is that this is your life. This is your life. And this is the age where we are becoming liberated and empowered, which is kind of the same thing, but there's subtleties to the differences between the two of those. We're becoming liberated from what we were engaged in this life. We are becoming free from concepts that we bought into. And those concepts of our life has set us up for limitation. And really, as what we're reclaiming as infinite beings of pure potential is infinity. We're reclaiming infinite creation at our fingertips. And it's interesting, when you do the work, when you do your meditation, you start to deconstruct everything you've bought into so far. You realize, well, why have I been holding myself back? Why have you ever held yourself back? And perhaps the only reason why we've ever held ourselves back is to discover how to stop it, how to not do that any longer, to get beyond any sort of engagement where we've been describing the world in a certain way and then suffering because of our own description. Now, it's really weird, isn't it? Because we're the ones who did the describing of the world, or we were convinced to describe the world in a certain way, right? We inherited values from other people, our society, our parents, our peers, our friends. And then we took our own power to suffer by this belief that didn't really and doesn't really work for you. And it's just amazing how much of a hard trip we can give ourselves about just wanting to be who we really are. Who are you when you stop trying to fit in? And I know that's a difficult process because, look, we're a group species. We want to be loved. We want to fit in. We want to have a crew. We want to have a family. We want to belong. And so there is that, I don't want to say balance. I'd like to say, look, in this regard, maybe there is a certain point in your life where you do bounce from everybody you've ever known. You just cut all the cords, so that you give yourself a shot to find out who you really are and to be in a position where you can then anchor and discover what feels great to you, so that you can then choose and align with new people. Because once you've discovered what it feels like to treat yourself well, then once you encounter anybody else who doesn't do that, then it's really obvious, Trang. It's really obvious when, if you've discovered how to treat yourself well and someone comes into your life not doing that, you really don't entertain those people for too long because you know what the standard is. You know what good feels like. So I just want to check in with you on this Friday and be like, hey, if anybody's going through something, this is the whole point of the show. Like, this is not all about me just, channeling hardcore for an hour straight. This is about you telling me, hey, is there anything going on with you that you would like me or the group or the Empath Nation, the Shift crew, to take a look at and give you support around? Really the themes that I'm just kind of currently working on right now is, it's always about self-responsibility. Like the brush, we're all creators, and this is really the path that I am standing for you. What I represent to you is that we're all creators, and that the brush is always in your hand. You always have the brush in your hand. And so what are you going to paint? And, as an artist, typically an artist will sometimes reference something in their mind when they paint a picture, or they rebel against something so that they can do something different and shock the world and take the world in a different direction. So it's interesting that as a creator, sometimes we're referencing mindsets that are not ours, that if given half a second of examination, we would actually throw away. And so why not throw away any reference inside of you that is a compromise? Throw away all references inside of you that would keep you held back from feeling amazing, when feeling amazing is available to you right now. So Tommy Hilfinger, a lot of things have been happening for you this year. Sometimes you're shocked of how life works for you. I thought I was faced with an obstacle recently, but with a shift of perspective. Yeah, a blessing in disguise. Absolutely. Yeah, I can only, think about in my own life, when people or a situation hasn't worked out, right? Maybe it's in your favor, a blessing in disguise, right? Like, what is that phrase? How does it go? Like rejection is God's protection. When it comes to trying to hang out with new people and be like, hey, that person looks interesting. Let me go hang out with them. And then they're like, they block you or something, just something like horrendous. And you're like, well, I get me. I know I'm a good person. Occasionally I have to check in and ask people, hey, am I a good person? I don't know. I'm assuming I'm a good person, but you let me know. But yeah, why do we get rejected by some people? Probably because they're letting you know they're not ready for you. They know what they like, and sometimes what people like is due to where they are on the path, their own path. And sometimes, if you're doing a lot of personal work on yourself, that can be really scary to people who are not at that level. Like I've had people, run out of my life because they're not ready to do that level of work. They're not ready to uncover the pain that's running their life. And, at the end of the day, who am I to judge? Maybe they need to live the rest of their life in that struggle to finally get the aha. And who knows, maybe it's going to take multiple lifetimes of them living in that struggle. And who am I to judge? They're that's their soul contract. They want to incarnate for the next 3 lifetimes in a abusive situation or a denial of self-love because as a soul, they're looking to grow in a magnificent way. And so at the end of it, right, they are getting exactly what they want, the growth that they're seeking. But the way we can see their growth is like, oh, why are they limiting themselves? Why are they not handling that thing? Because their soul contract is probably saying they got to go through the mud. They've got to go through the pain more until they get it. But I'm just really done with the pain myself. I'm like, it's not that I want to go overindulge in the pleasure, but I'm just like, I'm just noticing the levels of, I'll call it like mental exfoliation that's going on for me right now, of like every limitation inside of me is made by my own hand. And I am just so much more excited to let go of any conditioning that gives me a bad trip, right? You know, do you want to get rid of the conditioning that gives you a bad trip? And so to do that, you know, you got to be brave and you've got to make the time. You've got to make the time to basically get off the wheel. The show, if the show that you're currently enrolled in isn't floating your boat, you've got to make time to get out of it, right? You've got to retreat. Yeah, mental exfoliation, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, this might be the scariest thing you've ever heard, but nothing exists unless you think about it. So really, you know, what I stand for is like there's a lot of responsibility in that. Being a creator is a wildly responsible place to step into. And I got to tell you, I mean, I don't want to sound like a bummer, but I'm like, I don't really like what I see most of the time on Instagram. I think we're all just besieged with a lot of nice like quote cards and people looking cool, but I don't know where I see the work happening. And I'm sorry, but you know, if you want to get the muscles of being a creator, you got to put your time in. There's no amount of entertainment that you can consume and then reach that place. Like entertainment is cool because it does give you the feeling and it does give you the inspiration and the possibility, but there's no getting to where you need to be. Sorry, unless you put in the time. And really, you know, my number one way that I recommend, you know, it's meditation is really that place where we can do that mental exfoliation and, you know, understanding why meditation is so important is because your body is the kind of like, I want to say like safety deposit box, or it's the place that you've been holding the feeling of all your old thinking. And so when we do shamanic breath work and our meditation, we're actually we're taking our body to a space where we're doing the first act, which is retreating from the world. We're retreating from our game, right? We're retreating from our engagement for at least an hour a day. Where like, I'm like closing my eyes and I'm like F you to the whole world, right? It's like, it's amazing. You want to turn off the world, you just close your eyes. And then you examine where your mind is still continuing to chew on the events of your life. But if you got to take the retreat. You've got to take the retreat, and you can take it over. You can take a vacation for an hour a day to really be like, ultimately, look, everything you experience, you choose. This is heavy duty responsibility. Everything you experience, you choose. And if you may be at this point in your life where you're needing to choose a lot of different things, that means people go. That means like people are like actors who have been stimulating you in the difficult way of gotta go, because choosing different means choosing different. Obvious, I know, but are you ready to be like, you could lose, I don't want to say lose, you could choose a whole new world for yourself. And though that sounds scary, it won't be going down the road, because that whole new world with the whole new people is more in alignment with who you really are. So are you okay with doing that level of switching up the game? So again, this is Friday. I just want to hear more from you. What's going on for you? I love you. I'm so grateful that we get to spend time together. Really, like I said, the brush is in your hand. What are you going to paint? And when you're painting your life and you're choosing things, are you aware of any level of self-deception or aware of any imposed limitation when you're creating your life? Because if that's going on, then you're going to get more of the same. And if you're frustrated with more of the same, or you're done with it, then you've got to find where you've been limiting yourself. Because limitation requires your belief. Like, limitation doesn't exist. Like this water bottle exists. Limitation doesn't exist unless you engage with it, right? It takes your participation. This water bottle doesn't take my participation for it to exist. It's just doing its own thing. But things like limitation require participation. And if you are finding your situation, once you've even cleansed that level of limitation, is still limited, then yes, there's probably other forces like the context. And this is the biggest understanding that I want to get to. It's like, look, you've done your work. Maybe you've done your work. You've cleansed your mind. You've aligned with your heart. You feel amazing, but still there's crap going on. Well, then take a look at the larger context. Is it the job? Is it the people around you? Is it your home itself, the roots of your home? And are you willing to shake that up? Because as far as I can see, I don't really think I think time is up. You know, we all want a different world. We want a better world. It's up to us to be that better world. It's not going to be up to the government to do it for you. It's not going to be up to your neighbor to do it for you. It's not going to be up to a whole other country to lead the way. We are leaders. Each one of us are leaders, waiting. That your leadership is waiting for you. And so, yes, it's a never-ending story to expand. Absolutely. I mean, creation is not going to end. I would just say that the main liberation that I want to talk about or just illuminate is that, you know, look, we have this thing called society right now. And that society, we don't need to go about destructing it or deconstructing it, because it's doing it to itself already. It's not really founded on any principles of life. This is the thing that I know that can sound really like you can do your head in around that, or it's like a lot to chew on. But listen, the Western society is not based in a culture of life. It's not. It's not an indigenous culture. Western society is not an indigenous culture. It's a culture that is one that upholds the primary belief, as someone would say, a Descartian, based on Descartes, view that the world is dead, and that the world is not sentient, and that animals and materials are not alive, but they're here to serve us. That's the very dead world view. And that is what Western society represents. Yeah, there can be a lot of hype, like feel great, feel awesome, choose life. But when your main culture is out to manipulate other countries and manipulate mindset and manipulate the elements in order to keep you hooked into its system, a system that doesn't honor life, and is demanding that you participate in a system that's not based on life, then we've got some waking up to do. And it's a waking up, of where you're not so much here to rebel. You're just here to reclaim your power, the power you've always had, and choose life. Choose life. And if you don't know how to choose life, then this is why we seek to spend time with cultures who have not left life. We call them indigenous, which is a funny term because, again, the word, we're all indigenous, but a good chunk of the planet, unfortunately, like a lot of the chunk of the planet, has lost its way. And it sounds weird to say all these things like I'm on some sort of like soapbox. Everyone has lost the way, but we have, because we just look at our actions. We look at what's celebrated in our culture, and what's celebrated in our culture is sure, people doing good things is celebrated, but how often are we celebrating that where consciousness incarnates as creators who don't have to continue the way it is? We don't have to continue what was handed to us, especially when what was handed to us is a game of earth domination, material domination. And I know I'm going off on this, and I hope this is insightful to you. I think what I want to offer in that regard is a solution, because I think the solutions that have been offered so far are kind of ones that still keep us in the game, still keep us in the matrix. They still keep us in a state of antagonism or war. When, as creators, we can align with life, and we can learn how to speak the language of life. We can switch over from speaking the language of commerce into speaking the language of life, and then find great allies. I think that's really, really what I want to say is that there are elemental forces that are ready to be your ally. Once you reclaim your vision of seeing everything as alive. So, right? So that's what I mean by coming back to life. It's weird how certain phrases are hijacked in our culture, the dead culture. Like pro-life is a really weird, fucked up term, but I'm pro-life in the sense of everything is alive, meaning the tables, the chairs, the rocks, the birds, the trees, the air, the oceans. The shamanic worldview, the indigenous worldview, is everything is alive, and everything is an extension of the love of the mother that dreams this into being. So if we are doubting that, then we are disconnected from the very life support system that's funding your existence right now. It's obvious, but it's also elusive because we live in a culture that doesn't acknowledge that. If the Mother Earth is gone, how are you going to do in space all alone, right? If the ecosystems are not working, how are you going to breathe? How are you going to get clean water, right? So the consciousness of life is all around us. Everything is alive, even though that tree has now been turned into a table or a chair, or those minerals have been taken from the mountains and then turned into your cell phone. It's all still alive. And so the worldview of life, right, is one of connection to those elements that are supporting you right now. So you're basically on life support right now, That's kind of a funny term. You're on life support, and the Mother Earth is funding that life support. So really, it's a simple switch of getting with those elements that are standing by, ready to assist you right now, and to begin to create a practice where you dialogue with those elements that have you on life support. and you thank them and you acknowledge them, right? Like they're a good friend. They're a good friend supporting you right now. Those trees are making the air for you right now out of complete dedicated service to you. What's not in service? Everything is in service to your existence. So yes, in the big picture, we are equal, so we need each other to mirror. We are all equal. And listen, there is some wacky shit going on in the world right now, and, each one of us, as we're switching from the language of death and commerce and chaos back to the language of life, we have to witness where we're tempted to get caught up in the deception or the machinations of the world view that's going away. And, it can be pretty scary when you check in with that old world view. Like there's whole entire countries that want to destroy other countries right now. There's a lot of oppression still happening as these old forces really wish to exert some control, or some of those forces are wanting to exert defense, domination. There's really this crazy, kind of Armageddon thing that kind of looms in the air right now. And there is both, as the world is changing, there's both a dark side and a light side to these changes. The dark side would be like an Armageddon thing. And why this is coming up now, because, for the Toltec traditions, we're switching from the fifth sun to the sixth sun. This also ties in with things like the Hopi prophecy. There's also just in astrology, we're switching from the Piscean age of control and pyramid schemes to the Aquarian circular we age. And so, look, we're in a point of transition. And there's a dark transition and there's a light transition. And so, again, when the mainstream deception machine is telling you news only of what the dark version of that transition looks like, you can get really caught up in somebody else's worldview and feel depressed. When we getting with life is the opportunity that's right before us right now. And look, we have to admit, here in the West, we have forgotten how to speak the language of life. And what does that even mean? Speaking the language of life. What does that even mean? It's again, reconnecting to the world as it is. It's not about waiting for aliens to land. It's not about waiting for an ancient discovery of some sort of Atlantean technology. It's acknowledging the world as it is, not the world designed by humans. I'm talking the natural world as it is when you start to look at it. Observing where is the sun rising, observing where is the sun setting, connecting to the energies of the north and connecting to what the energies of the south mean, realizing that the elements that are all around you at all times are supporting you, the trees, the bushes, the birds, and realizing this incredible nature that surrounds us. And we need the dark to get even brighter. That's where we expand, meaning like we use the dark to get like contrast. Again, I think that's, just one aspect. I'll just say that right now, if that's what you mean. But yeah, contrast. The dark is there to also lend, refinement to what it means to choose different, right? I think all of this darkness is really asking you, what are you going to choose? What are you going to choose? And to remember, there is so much to choose. This, when we talk about like, there's so much hype you see on Instagram and Facebook ads and things like that, like live your 6-figure income life, as if that takes action. You're already rich. You're already rich. And it's time to understand why you're already rich. To really take that game back from the clutches of someone who's trying to make money off of you. You're already rich. And this is the reason why you're already rich. There's not one thought you can't think and then make that thought real. That's really it. There's not any thought you can't think and then make that thought real by focusing upon it and then feeling it. Now, the only reason why you may not be rich is because you're not entertaining enough possibilities. You're being poor in what you offer yourself as far as possibilities. But remember, that's your own power of belief or training. You've been trained not to think of possibility when it's possible for you to think anything and then become it and live in a universe that forms around that thought. You're rich people. You're the richest people who have ever existed. Take that power back and learn what it is by being able to entertain possibilities that don't consider the old rules. Entertain possibilities that are directly, like the shortest path possible, the shortest path possible to exactly what you want with zero compromise. And here's the trip of why you're so rich and why you're rich now. Notice the connection that the moment you think a thought, meaning you get the picture. As soon as you get the picture, you're in the experience of what you're desiring. How fast is that? No waiting. You entertain the possibility that you truly want, and you live in the picture in your mind. You're there. You gave it to yourself by your own power instantaneously. That's how freaking fast and rich you are. Now, I know there's the process. Okay, then how do you materialize it, right? Well, here's what science has already shown. The mind doesn't know any difference between what you see in the world and what you see in your mind. It's been proven time and time again that mental attitude followed by strong emotional resonance with that mental attitude creates change. So there are hundreds of scientifically double-blind studies done out there that show groups of people who focused upon their body getting stronger but never went to the gym, but they did it in a way that they had like focus, and then the feelings and the emotions around that focus of getting stronger actually got stronger. They got more muscles and gained strength. There's like study after study after study that you can find that the mind does not know the difference between the external world and manipulating the external world and the internal world and manipulating the internal world. They're one and the same to the mind. So if you're finding frustration in trying to change your external world, it means you have the opportunity to change your internal world. And to remember that you're very rich people because you can think of the thing that you want right now without having to negotiate the thought with anybody else. And if you find yourself having to negotiate your thoughts, then you've been trained, you've been somehow tricked to give your power away in your own mind. In your own mind, if you're arguing with somebody, then you've been trained that somebody else has the power and that you're trying to negotiate with somebody else within your own mind. End negotiations with everyone inside your own mind. Make this the sanctuary and the treasure house it is by getting rid of everybody that's inside of it except the one who wishes to give themselves the thing that they want right now. Hopefully it's not too noisy. There's like fucking gardeners outside. I don't know, fucking Stone Ages leaf blowers and shit. Really? I don't know. Anyway, so I just went on a big, flow there. How does that feel to you? I want to hear from you. This is really about, us connecting, and I listen to you. I've been doing a lot of the talking. How is it in your own mind? Have you ever noticed where you have like started to negotiate with other people in your own mind? Because a negotiation with another person is a belief that you don't deserve the thing that you want, or that you are enrolled in a current power paradigm where other people or other situations give you what you want, when your first name is the situation. You are the situation. Okay? You're the situation that you take your creator paintbrush to and you create. So, where are you challenged? I want to hear from you. Where are you challenged in that level of self-love and level of self-responsibility, and to find where a belief is just a belief. A belief is a belief. And who is the one who believes the beliefs? You are. You're the one who believes the beliefs. So that means you're the one who funds energy towards belief. And if you're funding beliefs that suck, then you have to have that aha moment of, what the fuck? Why am I doing that? Why would I take my own power and limit myself? Why would I take my own power and argue for my own limitations? That's the phrase. Stop arguing for your limitations. Stop demanding that your limitations are real, and realize that you're the only one who can make that real by funding it with the power of your creator abilities. And so look at the sickness that we're waking up from, where we stop taking our power and believing things that suck, and then experiencing those things that suck because we are the ones who believed them in the first place. So we have that aha moment of liberation and going like, well, if I can't think of anything awesome right now, the first step is actually not to think of anything at all. Yeah, you too. Have a great weekend. So just take that in mind. If you're not in the habit of thinking amazing things for yourself, the first step is to stop thinking altogether, to give yourself a break, right? If all you have been doing is continuing your previous enrollment into being your own crappy friend, then stop that first, because you may be just in the habit, the trained habit of being not a good friend to yourself, and creating limitations within your own mind, or having other people. The worst part is having other people live in your own mind, and then get into arguments with people who live in your own mind, people who limit you. So if you're not in the habit of treating yourself nicely, and you don't know how to treat yourself nicely, you're just going to have to stop what you're doing first. And again, meditation is that key. Meditation is that point where you say, I'm stopping my engagement both externally and internally for an hour a day, to not be tempted to continue with the way it is if you don't like the way it is. And to find bravery in the fact that you've been used to, if you have been used to treating yourself a certain way that may not feel awesome. And it's scary to try and find out what it is to treat yourself nice. Yeah, I mean, we can all be afraid of success, but why would we be afraid of success really? In the end, it's a level of self-worth. Our success is dependent upon how much self-worth we have, and we're all doing it. We're all getting in there and going like, okay, what's my self-worth? And why wouldn't we have all awesome levels of self-worth? I struggle with it too all the time. I mean, that's why I'm here hanging out with you, to show you, listen, there is a way to figure out how to get rid of every ceiling, every limitation, and then no longer even worry about ceilings and limitations and restrictions, and to get into, oh, I'm real comfortable with infinity. As a creator, you getting comfortable with infinite possibility is what's next. Remember what I was saying, you're very rich people. And your true richness is your ability to entertain possibilities. And that's an important thing to check in with. If you don't have more possibility, it's because you're taking your own power to limit possibility. And therefore you're restricting access to yourself. You're restricting your own access to the infinite. Let's just say it like that. You're restricting your own access to the infinite when you always have access to the infinite. I feel like I got to underline that 1,000 times. You're restricting your own access to the infinite when you have access to the infinite right now. There's no one there's no other being. There's no other being that holds that key except you. You are both key and lock. So unlock your access to your own possibility. And when we do the healing work, when we do the cleansing work, of course, we start examining possibilities and we're like, oh, I don't feel worthy of that possibility, right? Or you're afraid of that possibility, that it might be true. So again, like, okay, we have to cleanse the conditioning. What's the life conditioning that gave you that belief that you're not worth living the possibility that excites you most? There's a lot of hard trips. We've got to let go of. That's part of the work of reclaiming our power as a creator. We got to let go of the hard trips and realize that, not to be a victim around that, but to realize the coolest thing about having a hard trip is that at least at the end of it, you've proven that you can take a thought and make it real, right? That's the kind of coolest part about this so far, is that you've at least proven to yourself that you can take a thought and then make it real and then live an entire life around that one thought. Okay, this works. The mechanics of existence works. You've proven it. Now, what happens when you choose a different thought? And you no longer fund the old thinking. So you choose a new thought and you create a new life and you get brave to living that new life. Yeah, what have you been believing? And this is why we have to examine ourselves. We have to take when you examine a computer, you do a diagnostic search, or you're repairing a car. They hook the car up to the computer and they diagnose the car. That's what a surgeon does. That's what a doctor does. You diagnose the patient. But in this case, you're both doctor and patient, right? And may I be part of your community, your sacred Sangha, here at the Medicine Hour, the Obsidian Blade Shift crew. That's why we hold each other to the mechanics of how this works. There's a mechanics of, and you are a creator mechanic. and it works in a certain way. So diagnose yourself. Diagnose yourself as to why you're believing what you're believing. What is the root cause? And to realize that the root cause is just a thought. In an abundant existence where thoughts can be anything you want them to be. It's just what you believe is what you participate in. So why the heck have we been participating the way we've been participating? Partly because we're influenced by others and we want to fit in. That's why Instagram is fucking boring to me at the end of the day. And I feel exhausted trying to participate in more deception by posting more selfies and posting more quote cards that really at the end of the day, hey, they may feel a little good, but it's not the fucking work. It's not the work. And the work of your liberation really matters right now. And let me say that word in a important way, liberation, because sometimes when we say the word liberation, we can think of a very religious version of the word liberation, or an extremely like hermetic or devout version of liberation. Like, I'm going to leave the body. I'm going to fuck this earth. I'm out of here. No. You're here. It's important that you're here on the earth. It's important that you're living a life of the senses. It's important that you have a body. You know, I'm not talking about liberation of separation of spirit and body. No. You are mind, body, and spirit. It's one thing. You are source incarnate having a human experience, and that's what we came here to do. Because the human experience is needing a lot of love, a lot of transformation, and that transformation occurs through getting right with your body and getting right with your mind and aligning that to life. So liberation really means, for me, cleaning up your own thinking so that you can create from a place of infinite possibility. Liberation means no longer being a slave to what was handed to you. No longer being a slave to limitations that you've been funding by your own power of attention the whole time. Because it turns out being human is the most amazing thing you've been looking for. It's just that humanity has been sold a description that human is bad. And this is the global transformation that we're needing. This is where the slaves turn out to be the gods. I'll say it again. This is the moment where the slaves turn out to be the gods. Humanity has been deceived that being a human is a bad thing. Now, of course, you can overlive in your senses. You can eat a fuck ton of food. You can have sex all day. You can just be completely outward focused. And yeah, that's a deception in itself. You can be overridden by the senses. What we're talking about is a life in balance. So a life that is lived through the experience of the senses, but a life that's also connected to the spirit, and a life that's connected to the Mother Earth. There's a balance here that we're seeking. But the slaves are the gods. And again, you look at the rhetoric that's shown on TV. It's simple as this: you're not enough. Or the mindset that we're waiting for aliens to land to save us. Or some people are waiting for Jesus to arrive, or some people are waiting for Muhammad to arrive, right? All these power paradigms where somebody else is better and somebody else is more in charge. Turns out you're the one who's in charge. When you really examine what's going on here on earth, you're the one in charge. And if we're going to transform into a planet of leaders, everyone equally being a leader, you're going to have to realize that you're the one in charge. And that being human is what you came here to do. It's just that we've been using our own power against ourselves to enroll ourselves in a highly, highly, highly limited version of our capabilities. Because if we're talking about entertaining possibilities and that you have infinite ability to have any thought possible, then really when we take that to the furthest extreme, you can be anything. And I'm not talking about like, I can be a nurse and I can be a fireman and I can be a spaceman. No. That's all referencing the old world. I'm talking about you can entertain a possibility and then become it. When you entertain all possibilities, I'm talking about things like magical flight. Magical flight. This is your true job, is to reclaim magical flight. This is your true job. Don't go looking for a fucking job. You have a job. It's to clean up and restore humans to their full power, which starts with you. Not a full power so you can go, I'm going to go earn a 6-figure income. That's somebody else's fucking game. I'm sorry. That's not true riches. True riches is your ability to entertain possibility, feel that possibility, and become and live that possibility. Possibilities that no longer reference the world that was handed to you. I know we're not used to doing it. I know we're out of practice. I know this sounds fucking crazy. But human beings have been turned into slaves, and it's now time for the slaves to remember that they are the gods they've been looking for. You are the UFO you're looking for. You are the ancient culture you've been looking for. You are the sacred site you've been looking for. You are the crop circle you've been looking for. You are the ascended master that you've been looking for. It goes on and on and on and on. Stop looking for the permission and the power that only you can give yourself. And because the reason why you can give yourself that power is because you are already that power. You are already the power. You're just learning how to give yourself access to it again. And the fun and the liberation is going to happen when you start entertaining possibilities that don't give a fuck anymore to what has been handed to you as the only game in town. That's slavery. When a human has to keep participating with the current description of the world, that's slavery. Let's just drive it home. When you keep taking your own power of attention and enrolling yourself into a description of the world that was handed to you, that is slavery 101. And look, yes, I'm not saying don't get rich. I'm not saying don't have a human life. Don't have that money. Don't have that thing that you want. Absolutely go out there and get it because you're worth it. We're just going to, at a certain point, discover that the financial systems themselves are rigged. And yes, you can have abundance in that financial system, but that financial system, as it is owned by the current banking cartels, that's a rigged system. And eventually there is a cost to continuing to play in that rigged system. That yes, you may get very rich in that rigged system and have an awesome financial abundance in that rigged system, but it comes at a cost. And that cost is other people's suffering. I'm sorry to say, if you play with money from their game, it's a game that makes other people fucking suffer. I'm sorry to say that. It's true though, and we're so disconnected from it. But you look at the news and you can figure it out that this current financial system is a game where some people win and a vast majority of people lose. And it's time for that to end. So I want everyone to have their life, to have everything they desire. Absolutely. But just realize that the current money system, the way it is death incarnate. And I know I'm getting on a fucking Jesus tip here, kill the money lenders and shit. But fuck those money lenders. Other countries are being destabilized in the name of economic progress. You look at what's going on in Syria and you figure that shit out and you're like, that's the banking system, kids. That's greed. And I want everyone to have the car. I want everyone to have the home. It's essential to have those things. But how do we do it in a way that it doesn't make someone else suffer? And we got to stop that, And so we do live in a powerful age where people are showing up and saying, oh, well, actually, I don't have to go to the 9 to 5. And there are other economic models. And there is transformation happening in that, right? We see what's happening with things like Bitcoin and, cryptocurrency. That is actually a cool thing. Let me put it on a positive note, right? That's why a lot of light workers and very cutting edge people are like cryptocurrency, because there's a lot of humanitarian benefit to cryptocurrency. So we can see, look how inventive we are. We can say fuck you to the old system and create our own that's in alignment with taking care of others in a way that's transparent and authentic. So look, I'm not saying I think that can be a really intense trip. Again, spirituality especially when it's been adopted from the East, has been one of and even Christian things have this too, where you get rid of all your worldly possessions and you dedicate yourself to spirit. That's not the life I'm talking about, because I think we came here to be human and we have needs. Let's figure out the way to get those needs solved in a way that benefits you and everyone around you. So this is really taking it to another level. How can I do what I want, feel what I want, get what I want, and may it benefit others at the same time? May it give to others at the same time. I got 2 minutes on the clock here on Instagram Live. I just want to say, if there's any other thoughts, questions, pop them in right now. I'm grateful to hang out with you. And again, the audios from these podcasts are taken and put on iTunes. And, the videos, if you're seeing on this Instagram, of course, I'm doing this live on YouTube, and the videos live on forever on YouTube. So please, the link is in the bio if you want to subscribe to YouTube. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you love this video, please hit that notifications bell along with the subscribe button. And I will see you there. Again, I'm not a fan of Instagram. Sorry, I feel like it's a game that we're doing on each other. And all that matters to me about Instagram is connecting with you. I am glad you found me and I found you, and I'm glad we're hanging out. But please, connect with me on the YouTube or the private Facebook group that I've got going on. It's called the Obsidian Blade Shift Crew. The link to that is in the bio. That's where I can take your questions and go deeper. And so that you, at the end of the day, have more techniques and tools at your disposal to find your power as a creator, and to really, again, in this episode, what we were driving home, realize that you are the richest people on the planet right now. Figure that out. That the more you can entertain possibility, the more creative and inventive you can be, and realize that there's a whole universe that has your back to support your possibilities. Love everyone so much. Have a beautiful weekend. I'll catch you on Monday, 10 a.m. PST, 1 p.m. Pacific or Eastern. Love you.